I wanted to make a quick video going over our newest service truck and this trailer that we picked up in the end of September from Unruh Fab. We've pretty much switched to using them for all of our racks. We've got several rack trucks with their racks on them. We got one truck with a Barco, two trucks with my glass truck, and I can't remember for sure. We've got, I think, 5 or 6 trucks with Unruh racks now, and this trailer. But I posted this trailer when I picked it up on Glazer Nation, and a lot of people seem very interested in it. So I figured I'd make a video so everyone could see it in a little bit more detail. This is a 16-foot steel body bumper pull with the E-track and clubs. It came with 8 clubs. You got enough for 4 per side. It's the T-style with the offset, so you can turn them either direction to be closer or farther away. It's got 2 slots in the bottom for them to drop into, and offset E-track hooks with interior and exterior racks, and a full 3/8 rubber floor all the way through. So the exterior rack dimensions is 192 from the front to the last setting block on the back by 98 inches tall, and the interior is obviously also 192 by, I'm pretty sure it's 82 to the bottom of that top track. And then obviously you've always got the option of letting stuff overhang on the height to a reasonable amount. So starting at the front, you've got the fairly standard large wind block to protect your glass in the front from road debris. It's got 2 blocks at the bottom. I'm thinking about adding some periodically at the top, just because you just never know about slamming on your brakes, piece of glass tilting forward and bumping that, but that's part of the reason why you got the E-track. I try to always, if glass is much taller than it is wide, put a strap in addition to the clubs. It's a tandem axle, 2 7,000-pound axles, just singles on each side. It's not heavy duty enough to need duals. Unruh's estimation was that this thing is about 7,000 pounds. It's a heavy trailer. It's all steel, and it's thick steel. So I haven't weighed it, but that was their guess, is that it's probably around 7,000. So they gave it a payload capacity of also 7,000. So altogether, fully loaded, would be about 14,000 pounds. That is right at this truck's towing capacity. Generally, I'm pulling this trailer with my 2019 6.7 Power Stroke. It's got the highest towing capacity of any of our other trucks. It's our only diesel, so it does a little better with the higher torque and slightly higher towing capacity than any of our trucks have. Plus, it doesn't have a glass rack on it, so it catches a lot less wind. It's just suited a little bit better for anytime this trailer has much weight on it. So we added this Craftsman tongue toolbox. It's just the only one Lowe's sells. It's not the exact same angle as the tongue. It overhangs like 2.5 inches on each side, but not enough that it matters. It comes with a telescopic jack, so you can pull that pin out and drop it down, put the pin back in, so you don't have to crank the jack all the way up. It's a 2 5/16 coupler. It has the breakaway safety emergency brake, and one axle is an electric braking axle. And then it also came with a full-size spare, and the entire trailer is undercoated to protect it from, road treatment and rust. And they put this little paperwork holder here. It's a little tight, but it's a weatherproof spot just to keep your registration and insurance. Not lockable, but I'm not sure there's much risk of someone coming and stealing your insurance cards for a trailer. So you can see up there, it has 17 slots for the clubs to drop down into, or the glass stakes. I know there's a lot of different terminology on these. They're all spaced 1 foot apart. You also may notice that when they put these pads in the E-track, they're offset. So even though these are about 6 inches apart, this one to this one is only about 3 inches apart. So when you put a piece of glass on there and it's spanning all of them, there's not much risk of it touching steel anywhere. It's gonna pretty much be sitting on rubber anywhere you set it. And it's also not very likely when you put a frame on there, a storefront frame, that it's not gonna be touching those rubber pads. It's got the most coverage that you can potentially have without having a solid run of rubber and then E-track. So I've seen some trailers will do that. They'll do an offset, E-track, straight run, E-track, straight run. That way you do have continuous rubber, but it hasn't been an issue for us so far. So when I made the post showing this trailer, it was mostly positive, which is uncommon for Glazer Nation. Everyone likes to rip each other apart on that page. But probably one of the most frequently asked questions, I had several. I think that actually the top question was why black, and they offer all kinds of colors, but I wanted something that was pretty standard. You know, well, I wanted a neutral color, which is pretty much either black or white. And I'm just not crazy with the way that white trailers look. Pretty much all of our delivery trucks, our suppliers have white trailers, and they look good for the first year or so, but white just has a tendency to look really dirty really fast. And I thought black would stay a lot cleaner looking. And plus, the truck that I pull this with most of the time is my personal, and that truck's black, so I knew it would match that truck. Obviously, it doesn't match our service trucks. It really just came down to preference. I just thought that black would look better than any other color. I definitely didn't want green or red or blue or, you know, purple, pink. And I just thought white would start looking a little bit raggedy over time. But I figured this is powder coated, it's not painted. So I figured this black would probably just hold up better. I'm really not that concerned about it getting hot to the touch. I've had a lot of people say something about that. You're generally wearing gloves and you're working with glass anyway. And my flatbed trailer's black. It's powder coated black, and it doesn't ever get so hot you can't touch it either. I think this glossy black doesn't really absorb heat as bad as like a painted black would. And then another question I heard a lot was, why buy a glass trailer? Why not just have your glass racked to the job site all the time? And as you can see right here, we do deal with racks pretty often. These are just leftovers from other jobs that suppliers never came picked back up. But this isn't only used for glass. We transport a lot of storefront frames on it, and door leaves. It's honestly primarily used for storefront frame transportation. It's hard to transport frames, especially when you have a bunch of different varying sizes on a flatbed trailer. If you start trying to stack them up, the sizes don't all match, and then they don't sit flat on top of each other. You try to stand them on end, and you don't have a good way to tie them down. And the way we transport them, the majority of the time on small jobs, you know, you just throw them on the side of a rack. So everyone's used to tying frames onto a glass rack. With this trailer, we can load the sides down with a lot of frames because you got room to stack them on top of each other if they're the same size. And then in this back here, you can stack a ton of frames back here. I've had 48 storefront frames in the back of this trailer at one time before, because you can stack them end to end, put a strap all the way around both of them. You don't have to worry about them falling out of the sides. You know that your tie downs are good because it's E-track. It's the only option I can see that would be better for storefront frames would just be like a landscaping trailer with E-track down the sides. That way it's enclosed in a cage. You can just stack them flat against the wall. But you can't hardly move glass on a landscape trailer. So for us, in practicality, it just made the most sense to get a legit glass trailer. That way we can do frames and glass on the same trailer. When you got jobs that are the size, we've already had a couple of jobs, you can load the whole thing on the trailer. You can just throw all the frames in the bed or in the belly, and then all the glass on the sides and the doors, and then take one truck to the job. My F-250 is a crew cab, so I can load up 4 or 5 guys in my truck, and we can hook up to this trailer. And we've already done an out-of-town job that way. Everyone rode in the same truck, everything on this one trailer. It's mostly convenience. We didn't have a way to transport this many frames at a time before we had this thing, and potentially transport frames and glass, unless we just send 4 trucks to a job, and a lot of the time you don't need to do that. So it's mostly a convenience thing and an efficiency thing. And like I said, on the bigger size jobs, you know, stuff that's 100 insulated units or more, we have racks delivered to the job site. But this saves us from having to rent lifts and go with all that coordination, designating spots on the job site to store them, and then you're worried about glass getting broken. We've had a couple of jobs in our history where people will show up at night or on the weekends and either flip the entire rack over or just untie our glass and just push it down. We also had another instance one time where we had our glass stored on a job site on racks. I think we had 7 racks stored. They were all about half full. We had taken about half the glass off of them and set it already, and we just had them tied off in order to keep the wind from blowing them over. They weren't ready to be lifted, but someone came, you know, obviously no one saw anything after it happened, so we couldn't really, no one could take any blame. Superintendent, general contractor wouldn't accept that they had any responsibility in it. But someone came and tried to move every one of those racks, and they flipped every one of them over. They picked them up, and either one of them they dropped, it just came off their forks and landed upside down. One was just pushed over. One, they picked it up and moved it so rough that it broke our rope that we had tying it on. It was a annealed glass, so it was sharp, and they all dumped, and then we were just on the hook for all that broken glass. So that kind of put a bad taste in our mouth for storing glass on job sites. It was a contractor that we don't do work with anymore. It was a one-time thing. But this way, if we don't get all the glass set in one day, we bring it back to our shop. I put this trailer inside the building. We know all of our material is safe. And as far as transporting L racks or A racks or whatever rack that glass ends up getting shipped on, we do have this 24-foot 140T Big Tex flatbed. So also stock links. I've carried lots of stock links of metal on this trailer. They fit on here great, easy to tie down. But I've had 4 loaded racks on this trailer before, handles the weight great. This is also a tilt axle trailer, so we can put equipment on it if we ever did get small forklift or something. It has a hydraulic tilt, hydraulic pump here, battery box here, controller here. It raises all the way up until the back of the trailer touches the ground. This toolbox came with this trailer, but it's another one. We've transported vehicles on it. Like I said, stock links, L racks. Haven't had any glass cases on it. I'd be a little hesitant to do that, but it's a big heavy duty flatbed, bumper pull, so we can pull it with any of our rack trucks. So we've got that solution handled. That's why it makes sense for us to just have a regular rack trailer in addition, because anytime we need to move racks or stock links, we got this trailer. Anytime we need to move storefront frames, doors, or glass, now we got this trailer. And we also have an 18-foot equipment trailer, you know, utility equipment trailer that we use sometimes. But for the most part, we're down to these 2 as our primaries. So then besides that, probably the number 1 question that I was asked with this trailer or on that post was, what was the price? How much did this thing cost? And I feel like if I answer that question, it's just going to be misleading for a lot of people, because I know Unruh is a business like anyone else, and their material costs change and their labor costs change. So I'm sure that their prices on products change frequently. So it's not difficult at all to get a quote. They gave me a quote. It was either the same day or the next day after I emailed inquiring about it. So if you're curious about pricing, you think you're serious enough that you could consider getting something like this, just email them and they can give you a quote. Like I said, same week, I'm sure. I'm not working with Unruh on any of this. We just like their products, and they're fairly close. They're about 5 hours away from us, and we just prefer them more than the other manufacturers that we've used for glass storage and transportation. So obviously, since they're a custom fab shop, they build everything, you know, they don't mass produce these, they build these per order. So you've got a lot of options with what you can go for here. I went with 16 foot because that was on their website. It said that that was the longest that they would make a bumper pole. When I was there having this rack installed, I was looking through one of their catalogs they had in their office, and the catalog actually said they can build them up to 18 foot. So you could look into that. I was a little bit afraid 16 foot might be too small. I actually, when I had them quote this, I had them quote 2. So I had them quote the 16 foot bumper pole because their website showed that was the longest. And then I had them quote that they would make the longest that they would make a bumper pole. And then I had them quote a 24 foot gooseneck because they said that they can make goosenecks up to, I think, 40 foot or 40 something foot, which we definitely don't need one that big. But I wanted 24 foot because 24 foot stock links. I wanted to be able to throw stock links, you know, curtain wall mullions and stock links of sill pan in the bed and load glass on the side, glass and frames on the side. Long story short, the quote on that gooseneck was more than twice the cost of this trailer. So we ended up going with this one. And I was a little bit afraid it would be small, but it's plenty big. I haven't had a job yet where I have to do multiple trips or anything. We can figure out a way to make everything fit on this trailer, the kind of stuff that we do. Obviously, jobs exist where you can't fit everything on this, but the majority of the stuff that we do, the amount of stuff that you're gonna get done in one day anyway, with the crews that we have, fits on this trailer. So it's no big deal. Plus, the bumper pull, we got the capability to pull it with rack trucks. Gooseneck, we knew that we were going to be limited to only one truck or buying another truck without a rack on it to use specifically for towing. This is probably the only truck that we have that I think would be capable of pulling this trailer loaded, because I pulled this with my rack truck, which is a 2016 GMC Sierra 2500 with the 6.0 liter Vortec, and that truck just struggled. It really struggled pulling this trailer. It's got like an 11,000 pound tow capacity, but something you got to keep in mind is this thing catches a lot of wind when you're going down the road. It's like pulling a big parachute. So that truck it struggled. If I was just doing side streets, keeping it below 40 miles an hour, it'd be fine. But trying to get it up to 70 miles an hour on the interstate was hard. Trying to maintain 70 miles an hour on the interstate was hard. And then I exited onto a 55 mile an hour, very hilly and curvy highway. And I had a mile long string of cars behind me because I couldn't hardly keep it above 35 miles an hour going up hills. And that was with no glass on it. I had a load of about 40 frames, and then I was coming back empty, just storefront frames, aluminum, small frames too. They were all like 4 foot by 2 foot punched openings. But that truck just didn't pull it good. This truck, this is our new, like I said earlier, this is our newest service truck. It just got the rack on it on, 3 days ago. I got back with the rack. This truck has the 6.6 liter Vortec, and it is a totally different animal than the 6.0. We've had I'm pretty sure we've had 4 Silverados and GMCs with that classic 6.0. 2 of them are right there. We've got a 2005 Chevy Silverado 2500 and then a 2014 Chevy Silverado 2500. They both had the 6.0. They're both great regular rack trucks. That truck on the right pulls a trailer pretty good. Obviously never pulled a trailer with the truck on the left because it's got the glass bed from Barco, so it's never had a trailer hitch. But I'd imagine they'd both do about the same. You know, they manage just fine with a trailer up to, 7,000 or 8,000 pounds. But you get a trailer like this that catches this much wind and weighs this much behind it, and I just don't think it would do very good. This truck, however, I definitely think could handle it. This truck is, besides my 6.7 diesel, this is the most powerful 2500 I've ever driven. super fast, super aggressive. It's mean. It's going to be a very good, capable rack truck, and it will probably pull this trailer quite a few times in its lifetime. And I guess I'll mention, this is a 2022, obviously 2500, long bed, 4-wheel drive Silverado with, like I said, the 6.6 liter Vortec. It's a new, I know it's the newer engine. I can't remember exactly what year it came out, but I can tell you, very big improvement over the 6.0 that Chevy's been putting in their trucks for years. And while I was here making this video, since I have this brand new Unruh rack, wanted to make a video going over it real quick. This is their professional series. The only changes that I made to it from just its basic configuration is we added the cantilever metal storage rack. We throw ladders up there, we throw stock links of curtain wall mullions, we throw stock links cell pan up there. When we're transporting 1 or 2 frames that's too long to put on the truck, we'll throw it up there on those racks. It's totally worth it to have. It makes a really big difference having this cantilever that sticks over the cab. When you put a stock length up there, you know, you see a lot of guys, if they have the rack that ends right at the bed, and then they'll put a stock length of, say, sill pan or pocket filler, you know, something flimsy. That span from the front of that rack, you know, it just goes, overhangs the back, sits on that back bar, sits here, and then it spans usually about 2 or 3 feet in front of the cab. If you don't have that cantilever, that's a long unsupported piece right there. That's when you start seeing guys put a rope in their grill if they don't have tow hooks, you know, putting a rope around it and cinching it down until it's sitting on the hood or something, or just putting it there because like that Barco truck that we have doesn't have the cantilever rack. And we've had problems throughout the years of putting, you know, 1 length of cell pan up there to go to a job, and then you go down the interstate and it'll literally break it back, the wind will catch it and break it off if you don't have it tied off in the front. We've yet to have that problem on any of our trucks with the cantilevers, because this distance from the front of this to right there is usually not so bad that it's going to catch so much wind that there's any risk of anything catching and breaking. And the second change I made from its standard configuration is the E-track slats. After getting used to using this trailer, everyone loves using E-track. That's all that's in this toolbox. Is I've got like 25 straps and a bottle jack in there, and that's all that's in there. Way easier than ropes. All of our trucks look like this. They got ropes all over them because all of our trucks just have the standard straight slats with the rubber in them. So you tie stuff on with, you know, ropes, you loop them through those slats. Been doing it for years. All kinds of glass shops have been doing it for years. It's just takes a little bit longer, and then you have these ropes hanging all over your truck. The E-track is just, I think, a very worthwhile addition to know that your stuff's tied on with slack, because you deal with guys that just don't know how to tie a knot very good. You deal with ropes deteriorating and ropes hanging off and people not tying them off good, and then they run over the slack, which most of those problems, or some of those problems, you also have with ratchet straps, but they're generally a lot lesser. But I just wanted to, while this rack still looked all nice and new, I wish they'd stay looking this clean and pretty, but this is an aluminum rack. It oxidizes really fast and starts looking, you know, all matte, and that's just nature of the game. But this rack came standard with 3 clubs per side, so 6 glass stakes. They're not the T-style like the trailer. They're just a standard one side, only 1 hole in the bottom. The regular triangle cleats. And they did the same thing on this one. The buttons are offset. So this one's here, this one's here. So you don't end up with 6-inch spans of exposed metal. Big rubber setting blocks on the bottom. That's nice for setting glass down. You don't have to set your hand directly on it. You know, you have that problem with something like a solid floor. Oh, I forgot. There's actually 3 changes we made from stock. It's the cantilever, the E-track, and ladder hooks on both sides. Unruh recently switched to putting them on these little triangle supports, and I noticed it's got to be because they made these hooks a lot taller. On our other trucks, that hook is only, I'd say, about this long, and they would mount them on this vertical piece right here. I guess they must have been having issues with that, and they changed to these taller hooks mounted diagonally, which looks a little bit weird. We're not crazy about that. This ladder works well just on top of it, because now when you hook a ladder into it, it hangs down into the bed and gets in the room for, or gets in the way for space to store your tools back here. So these guys, this isn't my truck, but these guys are sticking with ladder on top of those hooks and bungee corded on, and then their other ladder up here on the top of the cantilever. That makes it nice and easy to get to. You don't have to climb in the back of the truck to get it out. You can just throw it up from the side, and you can see they got it tied on here and here. As it's getting a little bit dark right here, I figured I'd turn the lights on so you can see that the light that they have on board rack has the, or truck rack has the light right here, front center. Trailer has the same thing at the top. They also have marker lights on the corners. You have a light up there. I can't remember if that functions as a third brake light or not, but running lights, it shows it. Marker light on the rear of the trailer also. Marker lights in the center. All LED lighting in the trailer, LED taillights and brake lights. So I know everyone deals with trailer light problems. LEDs seem to make that a lot less of an issue. No light in that bar, probably because it's removable. It's just in there with pins. So if you're getting tall glass or frames in the back, you don't have to worry about hitting, working it in at an angle to get by it. And then marker lights down the other side. And then obviously marker lights on the rack as well. And I guess while we're here, I'll go over some quick little features of this truck. We bought it used, but it only had 2,000 miles on it when we bought it, so it's basically brand new. These mirrors are changed from the way that Chevy and GMC has been using their mirrors, but they're still extendable. They flip right here instead of sliding. It's kind of like a pivot, but still extendable, so you can see past if you've got frames stacked out or a bunch of frames right here and you can't see through your clubs. You can still see, you can still extend that mirror out and see past it. These mirrors are great. The big, huge blind spot mirror on the bottom really helps a lot. And then the extra big regular viewing mirror. I noticed Chevy has moved this gas cap forward so much that now it hits this when you open the door. And I don't think Unruh could really prevent that. I don't think they could have moved this. You see they already scabbed this piece in because that vertical would run all the way through and be totally in the way. They already switched to doing that, put it as far forward as they could. They did at least add that piece of rubber. It doesn't hinder your ability to fill up. I've filled this truck up since we had the rack on it. You can still get a pump in there just fine. It may affect your ability to put DEF fluid in there, but this isn't a diesel, so no concern. Rack covers the bed step that Chevy has started putting in their trucks, but you got the rack to step on. Quick view of the interior. Extremely nice for a work truck. It's got a button parking brake, which is a little bit weird to me. Button four-wheel drive shifter. I'm not really sure why they switched tow haul mode to right here instead of the end of the shifter like it's been, but that's how you turn it on now. You just rotate it and then let go. That turns it on, that turns it off. Instrument cluster is very similar to the way that all the rest of their trucks have been. This truck has cruise control. It also has Apple CarPlay or Android CarPlay, depending on which one you have. Trailer brake controller here, USB-C, USB. Nothing else really out of the ordinary for trucks. You got a little bit more room behind the seat in this truck than you do in most other Chevys, which is nice, because like this, older body style, the 2007 to 2014 body style. There's no room at all behind those seats. You can barely get a jacket behind there, and you can't hardly even lean the seat back. Hood has a hood scoop, not functional, of course. It's all blocked off just for appearance, I guess. One fairly big complaint I have is this is plastic, and it's also very wobbly. So when you're trying to open the hood and you're pulling on this, this just starts to flex instead of releasing the hood. I predict this is going to break eventually over time, getting hot and cold and brittle. But there's that new 6.6 V8 Vortec gas. So it's got the extra battery tray. Since it's not a diesel, it doesn't need dual batteries. And then they put the one battery over here on the hard side to get to if you ever need to change it. But that's what it looks like under the hood for anyone that's curious. Very nice, very capable truck. I know a lot of companies don't get four-wheel drive trucks for their service vehicles. We didn't for a really long time. That oldest truck is two-wheel drive. But we've pretty much switched to getting four-wheel drive for the rest of our newer trucks. The convenience and the security is nice. It's worth it for the amount of snow we've been getting now. We're in Northwest Arkansas, and we usually, for a long time, didn't ever have bad winters. But the past 3 or 4, we ended up with quite a few snowy and icy days. And the peace of mind of knowing that all of our guys are out in four-wheel drive trucks is a lot. It's worth the extra cost, and the mild fuel economy loss, and a little bit more expensive up front. And plus, so many of these commercial job sites get so bad, muddy, and steep, and glass trucks, you really need to be able to pull them up close to the building to unload your glass and your frames. We have to drive them through some really sloppy, muddy spots sometimes in job sites. And we also do a lot of residential homes that are built just way out middle of nowhere down some of these dirt roads that get terrible. So ever since we started getting four-wheel drive trucks, we started realizing we're using the four-wheel drive function pretty often. So we've switched to that. Another thing about this truck I figured I'd mention real quick, no tailgate latch. It's a button. Kind of strange on a work truck trim. Hopefully that holds up. Tailgate is also extremely light. It also has a button inside the cab, right here, that drops the tailgate. So that's kind of cool. Not super necessary. I'm guessing they probably added it for this truck because it has the gooseneck prep factory. So I guess that would come in handy for backing up to a gooseneck. You don't have to get out of the truck to drop your tailgate. Obviously this truck will never pull a gooseneck with the rack on it. But that's just another feature. Kind of strange for us because we don't have any trucks this new. The only thing that I've felt like I would have liked to have changed about this trailer after using it for a few months is I wish I would have asked if they could fab some type of tailgate. Because even though I can't put stock links back here, a lot of the times I can throw pieces of metal, you know, heavy glass jobs. I've got U-channel I can put back here, you know, links of sill pan, pieces of head and sill. That's cut down so it's not 24, because obviously you can't put 24 would be hanging pretty far out of there, so that wouldn't be practical. But if you start throwing, you know, 11, you know, 10-foot pieces of metal back there, there's not a great way to secure it, because it's all, you've got all this that you can't really tie to, and if you put it right here, you're risking it getting scratched. We're gonna probably eventually add rubber strips on all those pieces, so then you could slide stuff in there and tie to this. But I really wish that we had a tailgate. It wouldn't even need to be tall. If we had a tailgate that could go up to about right here, that we could fold down or even lower, it would really help a lot for not having to, for peace of mind of knowing that stuff's not going to slide out of the back. I know it's unlikely on this rubber floor, and it's not like it's getting much wind because it's blocked, but it's a little bit of an issue for us sometimes, because when I'm pulling this truck with, or pulling this trailer with my truck that doesn't have a rack on it, and it only has a 6-foot bed. I can't throw, 10-foot pieces in the bed of my truck. I gotta put it on the trailer. So that's a little bit of an issue. It's, nothing you can't get around, because we usually just end up, we'll set it in here on some styrofoam or, plastic wrap, and then tie it on the side, make sure it doesn't get scratched. But it would be easier if we could just set it back there, shut a tailgate, it's not gonna come out. It would also be nice if these had little small doors you could open and shut, or even if it was solid, you can just slide it in and drop it over. But that's really the only complaint. And that's not even a complaint. That's just something I should have thought of when we were ordering it. Because I bet you, since Unruh's a custom fab shop, I bet you they could have made one. But we may end up adding one eventually. We got local fabrication places. It's just steel. So we'll probably add one to it eventually. And I'm thinking that pretty much covers it. If you have any questions, feel free to post it in the comments. I'll be pretty active in responding. I guess one last note that I haven't mentioned, I really like the maneuverability of this trailer. The distance from the axles to the bump or to the hitch is great. It gets around. I've had it in very tight job sites a couple of times already. Pretty much every time I've pulled it, I've ended up in really small, tight job sites, and it's very easy to back up and turn around. It's extremely predictable. It's not an extra tight turning radius because it's not that far of a distance from that axle right here. So I really like it. My only worry is hooking one of those T-clubs on something, because those stick out farther than the bottom, so you could miss something at the bottom and hook something up there, and I can't see those in the mirrors either. But anyway, I think that's it for this video. Like I said, feel free to comment whatever you want. Thanks for watching. Here's a question I just thought of. I'd be interested to hear, what do you guys prefer as far as the truck, service truck setup? This is pretty much my ideal setup for our guys. Single cab, 4-wheel drive, V8, 2500 gas, long bed with a pickup bed rack. I'm not really crazy about the glass bed racks where you buy a cab chassis, whole thing's a glass rack. It's pretty nice, being able to store glass inside the bed too, but the tailgate situation is always weird, and that's kind of my main complaint. The bed ride height's usually a lot higher, so you can't generally fit as many tools back there without blocking your rear back glass. I just prefer this, still having the legit tailgate, factory tail lights, still got access to your trailer hitch. At least with our Barco bed rack, we have trailer light tail lights, which we've always had problems out of. No trailer hitch. Bed height's very tall. If you put any type of toolbox in the bed, it's blocking your visibility in the back. But I know that it's a very heavy duty way to do it, because I've also seen these bed racks. We haven't had it happen yet, but I've seen them peel the bed sides off. We do have a Nissan half-ton that it is kind of starting to happen on the passenger side. So I know that that's an issue that you run into. We try to generally keep it within the 750-pound weight limit. 3/4 tons so far seem to handle it fine. It's only happening to that one Nissan half-ton that we have. So I know it's an issue, but I'm curious, do you guys prefer crew cabs, extended cabs? Does anyone like diesels? Anyone prefer a diesel over a gas? Do you ever have problems where you feel like a gas truck isn't enough? I feel like, in my opinion, a half-ton, unless you're just doing like shower doors and residential window replacements, I feel like half-tons generally don't quite have what it takes to carry. You get jobs like this where you're transporting a whole lot of 3/8 or 1/2 inch or a whole bunch of insulated units on commercial jobs, and half-tons, in my experience, just don't have the weight capacity for it. You burn up rear ends, you're bending leaf springs, you're burning up transmissions. You always got to worry about payload, sagging. But does anyone like to have a dually? I figure that's probably just for the guys that tow. I guess you could probably have a 1-ton with an extra long glass bed, stack glass in and out, and potentially need a diesel dually. But we haven't had that issue. I'm just curious to hear what you guys What is your ideal glass truck to handle what you do?